Primarily, Homa, it's arrogance. Arrogance and privilege. The Khalifas have been running the country for 229 years. They believe they are above the rest of the population. They believe the other population, the whole bulk of the population, is there to serve them. Well, on this anniversary of Labor Day, International Labor Day, May Day, the world is telling them, no, we are not here to serve you. In fact, monarchy as a form of government is outdated. It is thrown to the dustbin of history, so be prepared to leave and abdicate, because you are no longer wanted here in Bahrain.
In Beirut, Mr. Hisham Jaber, I think you can hear us now. The question that I put to you, I'd like to have your view on this as well. Why is the Bahraini regime not for dialogue when political observers are saying, when the protesters are saying, and everyone that we're hearing is saying that this violence and this crackdown is working against the existence of the regime itself?
Yes, ma'am. I am confident that King Hamad al-Khalifa wants the reform, but he is under pressure from three sides. First, Saudi Arabia, as I told you, they don't want any reform, any democracy in Bahrain, because it's not convenient for them, and it will move this democracy or request for democracy, for equality to the Saudi Arabia, and especially to the eastern region. Second, the Americans are not sure that giving democracy to the people of Bahrain will ensure, will protect their own interest, because they are using Bahrain, as we said, as an American base, a military base, as a military platform, and it's very important strategically for their operation everywhere, and especially to be near Iran, and also their intervention in Afghanistan, and in that area, Bahrain is the center, is very important.
So, Mr. Jaber, sorry for jumping in. So, are you saying that these allies believe that a violent crackdown is the only solution and is actually going to quell these protests and is actually going to bring calm to the crisis in Bahrain? Is that what they believe?
No, I said that the Americans, of course, they don't. They are not sure that they want. They have a slogan to have democracy, but they are not sure if they give democracy to Bahrain, the government, the new government of Bahrain with the democracy may ask them to minimize their presence in that area. And there are, Americans are accusing the protester to be politically pro-Iran. The question is, if Iran is supporting their protesters, at least Iran should or could give them weapons. For example, Iran is not interfering at all in the problem in Bahrain, and even Iran has the right to be concerned about what's going on in Bahrain. The revolution in Bahrain, the protest in Bahrain is peaceful so far. We are not sure if it will stay like this. People in Bahrain for 1 year, they were asking for reform under the ceiling of the kingdom. And I am not sure now if they will accept this. And now we start to hear voices. They want to change the whole regime after 14 months of the revolution. Right. And this revolution or this protest is still so far peaceful. And I think the best solution for Bahrain, that the king will make a very brave initiative, for example, and move for dialogue and listen to those people and try to convince his neighbors, Saudi Arabia, for example, and other Gulf countries, and to tell United States the only security on the only the peaceful solution and given democracy and the dialogue will solve the problem in Bahrain,
right, Mr.
not
Jaber,
the force.
Right, you're telling us, Mr. Jaber, here that you believe the United States or Saudi Arabia are concerned about reforms taking place in Bahrain, are concerned of a democracy in Bahrain, because that they think could lead to or could threaten their interests. If I could go to London here now and put this question to Mr. Qureshi. Mr. Qureshi, do you think then that at some point, however, at the end of the day, these allies will be forced to accept that political reform taking place in Bahrain, for instance, like we saw saw in the case of Egypt, when the United States was basically facing the situation in the hands of the revolutionaries and saying, okay, we also agree that Hosni Mubarak should step down. Do you think that is where the Bahraini revolution is headed to?
Well, can I just, it's a good question. Can I just put things in perspective? The United States is a big country. If they want to attack Iran, or if they had any designs Iran, they are in Afghanistan, they are in Iraq. They don't need Bahrain for any kind of strategic reason. They already occupied the whole of Iraq is under them, the whole of Afghanistan is under them, and as well as they have bases in the Central Asian countries. So it's probably the self-importance coming from the Bahraini regime itself, that they're saying we are so important to you, the United States, please look after us or keep us. United States is a big country. United States will go with the people today, tomorrow, or day after tomorrow. That is the overall policy of the United States. So it's up to the rulers in Bahraini and in the Saudi regime to be realistic. If there is an administrative or political reform required that is worth doing, then something which is far more difficult for them to manage. If they do make any changes, if they have any kind of fears in their head that the Iranians are going to take over the whole of the region. The Iranians were there for more than 5,000 years. They haven't taken the whole region, and so is the Arabs. So they need to come out of this Iranian-Arab mindset in the subconscious of the people, especially in the ruling classes, that Iran is not a threat to them. And similarly, the Saudis are not threat to the Iranians. So if they have these kind of phobias or fears in their heads, they need to come out of it.
Right, Mr. Quraishi, if I could stop you there, if I may, because we're running out of time. I'd like to give our closing comments to our guest in Austin, Mr. Cavill. I'd like to have your view on what was said there by our guest in London about the US policy and position. Do you agree with that? And again, do you think that the United States is going to be forced to accept a handover of power in the case of Bahrain?
Omar, Bahrain geopolitically is very different from Iraq, very different from Afghanistan. It's an island nation, and with an island nation you have a security for your base, and that is why the Fifth Fleet is located in Bahrain. It gives them access to the entire region. As well, the Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain, utilized by the American military jets and planes, allows them to bomb everywhere from Iraq to Yemen to Afghanistan. So geopolitically, Bahrain is central to U.S. interests in the area. Secondly, U.S. they know that the situation has to change in Bahrain. Right now, what some experts are suggesting is that they're putting Bahrain on a slow burn, trying to drain them and Saudi Arabia of as much military purchases of armaments as possible, because a democratic regime would never need to purchase so much military hardware from anybody. So they're trying to drain them for as much money as possible before they make substantive fundamental change in the regimes.
Thank you very much. I'm afraid we've run out of time. A big thank you there to Mr. Colin Cavill, former Assistant Professor of the University of Bahrain, joining us live from Austin. I'd also like to thank Mr. Shahid Quraishi, journalist and political analyst in London, and Mr. Hisham Jaber, Director of the Centre for Middle East Studies in Beirut. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us. And thank you, viewers, for staying with us here on News Analysis. From me, Homa Lezgi. Until our next programme, it's goodbye.